welcome to my channel, or welcome back. And what inspired me to want to cover this, and I know this has been covered by a lot of people, but I'm going to try to approach it from a little bit of a different angle. And what made me want to do this was a friend of mine sent me the link to the behind the scenes video on the original Little Mermaid. And as I was watching the video and I listened as the animators, voice actors, and everyone else talked about it, like the inspiration and all the work that went into it, the idea and hope and thoughts, everything that went into this movie that carried this sense of excitement, passion, and love. And then I thought back to how with the remake, I didn't get that sense from the things I had heard from the actors or anyone else. And I think that's because there's just so much focus on the rather political angle of calling people racist, because the people at Disney chose to race swap Ariel. Not make a new character with a new story that could have been or could be inspired by the tale by Hans Christian Andersen, but a reanimated zombie that they just slapped a new coat of paint over and expected people to, well, I honestly don't think they expected people to accept it. I think they knew what would happen, and I'll get into that. But it leaves a very sour taste in my mouth when I think about it, because The Little Mermaid was easily my favorite Disney movie growing up. From the start with Fathoms Below, that was just amazing and animated very well, and how we follow the fish down to the sea and so on and so forth. And the energy that came from each scene that carried you forward, and it didn't rush through the story. I mean, I think I've heard people comment about how incredible the pacing is for like an 80-some minute movie that packs in a lot and doesn't really feel rushed. And each part of this movie, of course, was engineered to be important. Not 1 ounce of it could be called filler. And the characters' traits are established, and they're built upon with each scene that they're in. Ariel is a curious and rebellious girl, but she's still kind. And it's that kindness that leads her to save someone else, be it Flounder or Eric when he fell in the ocean. And Eric compliments her because he's also kind and heroic, and they also share the curiosities. They're curious about each other's worlds. And, of course, they have to give Eric a mom in the new one, and that's supposedly the parallel Triton. I think this was a rather poor choice, because that's technically kind of Grimsby's role in the original. Of course, he's not as harsh about it as Triton is with Ariel at times, but he does gently remind Eric that he needs to be thinking about marriage, and Eric, of course, wants to marry someone he loves, rather than someone he's obligated to marry based on his title as prince. To me, the move of having Jodie Benson praise the remake highlights how much they know they messed it up deliberately, and how they still expected people to show up to some degree, to see it anyway, because Benson praised it. Personally, I feel like this was also a dig at those who disagree with race-swapping Ariel and all the changes they made to fix it. And ultimately, they made it about race. They chose an actress based on her race. They knew what would happen. They went forward with it anyway. And I just find that despicable on so many levels. They reduced the character, and ultimately, by default, the actress too, to race rather than people with their own personalities and individuality. And because that's where we should focus is on them as people rather than race. That's how you write good characters, is that you think of them as people with their own thoughts, hopes, feelings, and dreams. I mean, you're supposed to turn that around and apply it to real people as well. And they, of course, tried to rewrite history by throwing out this remake that was, I keep saying this, goodness gracious, in very poor taste on a lot of levels. And I know what I wanted to see, and I think when people first heard that they were going to do live action, you had probably at least two reactions. People cringing because of, another remake, which is understandable because the previous remakes weren't that good. And then there were probably people like me who when we thought remake, or not necessarily remake, we just thought live action. We were like, wow, that would be really cool. And that's not what we were given. We just wanted to see a true to the original 89 movie live action, not a race swap remake, followed by trying to fix something that was most certainly not broken, and was not made with the love, hope, and passion that the original film held in its creation. And the tale of The Little Mermaid had already been properly modernized, with the concepts of the rebellious child and the overprotective parent, and the portrayal of evil through Ursula, and these are the things that actually stand the test of time. Because I think that either we as individuals, we've had that overprotective parent, or we know people who've had that overprotective parent, or we've known, or we've been the rebellious child. And the concept of evil, of course, it withstands that test as well, because there will always be evil out there. And I think this just hammers home the fact that love towards anything besides themselves is a foreign concept to the people in the mainstream entertainment world. And I've noticed over time how they've sucked away love and romance from these stories and replaced them with cardboard cutouts with ideas like strong girl boss. Something I'll put here as to why I dislike this idea of the strong girl boss that don't need no man is that it's an extremely poor role model that teaches young girls that they can't accept help and be strong in their own right. And while it's true that as people we all face times where we can only rely on ourselves for whatever reason, whether we're on our own or we're in a position where asking for help is out of the question from those around us, we can still find other ways to get help. We're not just perpetually isolated in such a way that we have to literally do everything ourselves. And even if we are, it's most likely more out of our own choices. And there's more than one way to get help. Be it, physical as in getting help from someone to do a task, or be it emotionally from family, friends, or even that rare good Samaritan. And of course, if you don't ask for help, then you don't get any. And even I struggle with this sometimes. It's just part of being human. And that's what helps us relate to characters as people. I'm also put off by the fact that they seem to throw in being able to self-teach yourself in this stereotype. And please let me tell you this. Teaching yourself is not that easily done. And you have to work at it. In fact, I would say I've struggled more on my own than when I look up something online or in a book, or I ask somebody to give me help because I'm not sure of what I'm doing or how to do it. And that's fine. That's okay. It's okay to need help and to ask for it. And it's not believable that someone is going to be like pro level by self-teaching themselves. That takes years. I mean, unless you go to school, which I honestly think going to some specialized thing where you learn a specific skill, that's why we have medical schools. That's why we have art schools. People are going there in order to take the abilities and skills they've honed on their own, or to gain more skills on top of what they already have in order to improve and get better. That's how learning works. And if you're going to go the self-taught route, then I hope your character has a lot of free time to themselves. But it's really unrealistic with how easily they tackle things. Like Ariel steering the ship to impel Ursula, which is laughable when she's standing on her tail. Or Ray being able to perfectly fly the Millennial Falcon for the first time with no problems. Very unrealistic because, like anything, these things take time to learn and to build up your experience and confidence to do them. But on a lighter note, I'm sorry for the rant there for a bit, but we'll get back on my initial point. Watching that video reminded me of the passion and excitement I feel when I start a new story by itself, or a new chapter in Phantom Eclipse. It reminds me of the hope I feel as I put things together bit by bit, and I honestly don't think the people who are making these remakes feel that, or these movies, or in this case movie, would reflect it. Your work as an artist reflects your mindset behind it. And I'm sorry that drug on for a while, but it's just something that struck a note with me. I wanted to cover it. Thank you for coming this far if you did. And if you did, thank you. And if you enjoy it, please,